you want me to introduce her?
Sure.
Val Brazil, it's pronounced Brazil, is a CPP,
Yeah.
which is payroll professional. Has been with Tyler for 12 years now, and many of you may have known her from her years of doing implementation. She's worked with a lot of districts when they were implementing, and is now one of our senior support analysts. So either you may have worked with her at your district or over the phone. And we're very glad to have her here today. My name is Carrie Hughes, and I am the account representative for Tyler Internet Visions. And really kind of my goal is to really help all of you to get the most out of your investment with Tyler. So today's topic is perfect for what I like to help districts do. And so I've been with Tyler for 13 years and dedicated to working with Internet Visions clients now for about 4 years. So it's been wonderful to get to know all of you. I'm clicking on to the next slide. When we talk about, I just want to kind of do a real high level overview about the different levels of efficiency and going paperless before we delve into some of the details. Just one more click. Okay, so some of you talked about right now you are doing paper contracts, and hopefully you're creating those from Infinite Visions. So at least you're able to bring that information, all of the employee information, and maybe you bring it into Word so that you can add some additional verbiage or your logo or things like that. Maybe our standard HR template for contracts doesn't necessarily meet your needs. So that's already giving you one level of efficiency by bringing in that employee information, that position information into Word. The problem with that is then you're sending the contracts out, either handing them out or emailing them from Outlook or from whatever your mail system is. So there's not necessarily an easy way of keeping record of it in Visions. So the next level of efficiency is to use the HR standard contract format and email those directly from the HR module. Sounds like some of you guys are doing that now, and that's great because then you have a record of when it was sent to the employee, you have their email addresses in the system. The next level of integration or efficiency would be publishing the contracts out to iVisions. What's great about that is as the employees are going through and accepting the contract, it's updating the HR module for you. And then when it's getting to that point where the offer is going to expire, you can mass email all the employees that you haven't heard back from or haven't accepted yet and send them reminders on an hourly basis, or someone that's doing that often. With the Q1 release, which is coming out at the end of February, beginning of March, ish. We're going to have a new feature where you can publish custom contracts to iVisions. So you'll still be able to get that active acceptance, but you'll be able to do a little bit more, like add your logo. You'll be building it from within the HR module, the design of it, and then you'll be able to get that custom look and feel, and then still have a record in iVisions of who has reviewed it, who's accepted it, who you haven't heard back from, so you can follow up with that. So I put up on the board over here, there's going to be a webinar for the Q1 release on February 25th at 9 a.m. So if you guys go out to Tyler Community, you can register for it there. If for some reason you're not able to attend at the time, it's okay because they're going to record that webinar and you can watch it at a later date. Yes, Jason.
When was that again?
February 25th at 9 a.m.
Oh, okay.
And so go to the Tyler Community, and I actually we'll send you guys these slides and these handouts electronically. I'll send them to Mike and he'll get them out to you. I put a link to Tyler Community into this PowerPoint, so you'll be able to just link to it. But that's really exciting. We're not really able to show that to you today because it's not quite available, and it might be a little bit too late for some of you to use that feature. If it's coming out like February 1st or by the time it gets applied at your district. So, but still exciting for future future prospects. And then, of course, I have to talk about the ultimate level best practices of contracts is to use it with Tyler Content Manager. We've talked about Tyler Content Manager at this meeting a few times in the past. But Tyler Content Manager is a document management solution that's in use at like 1,500 government agencies throughout the United States. We've just completed the interface to Infinite Visions. And I know at one of these meetings, Karen from Heinfeld and Meach talked about Tyler Content Manager and said, you know, from an auditor perspective, this is something that she'd really like all districts to look at and consider getting. And I put just a quick slide together where I told, these are my favorite features about Tyler Content Manager. Carrie's favorite features. First thing we do, if you get Tyler Content Manager, is we will move all of your current, you know, document attachments. When we manage documents, when you upload documents, we move all of those off of your Infinite Visions server. So already, that should be making things run a little quicker. The other thing we do is all of the documents that are created by the system or ones that you're uploading, we do something called auto-indexing, which means we're capturing key data like vendor name or employee name and employee number, vendor number, check dates, check numbers. But we actually are running what's called OCR on the entire document. So we're capturing all the information that's in that document. So if you have, for example, an invoice that you're uploading that you received from a vendor, we're capturing everything on that document so that you can search on like a serial number for a new laptop. And it's looking across all fiscal years. So you don't have to worry about like which fiscal year did I buy that computer, if that document's uploaded through TCM. So the other thing that's really helpful for this conversation, I think, is the security. So you can use redaction on the document. And you guys know what redaction is, right? You can black out and only certain level security can see through the redaction. So if for some reason you wanted to print out the full social security number, but you wanted it to be redacted for certain users. And then there's also an automated document purge. So this is important with HR documents. Right? You have certain documents you have to hold on to a certain number of years and certain ones that you have to get rid of after a certain number of years. TCM has the functionality for scheduling by document type, that retention schedule. And then of course the benefit of going paperless. So I brought a couple brochures about TCM. I know Peoria, we're coming out to meet with you guys in a couple weeks because you guys used it with Venus, and we're going to use it with Infinite Visions hopefully again soon, now that it's available. So if anyone wants information on that, let me know. And then with that, I think we're ready to switch gears and jump into the system. Now, did everyone get handouts, the user guides?
I'm going to fire my secretary.
So before we start, there's two different documents. There's one document that's actually from the HR user guide that says contracts and looks like this. And then there's another document that Val put together, which really applies if you have iVisions and you want to be able to republish a contract. So does anyone still need either of these?
Good.
Okay.
So I was told I could have the whole afternoon.
I do have as much time as you need, Val.
Yep.
We are here for contracts, and I'm just filler at the end if there's anyone with any brain cells left after me.
So I plan on using this time, and I'm looking at him because that's what he said.
Just go fill the jar.
Cool. And then if we need a break, I'll probably try to take a break, maybe in about an hour. So, yeah. but we'll see how this goes, so. I always like to start my classes with the end, so you can see the end result of what we're working towards, okay? So I am logged in to iVisions, disregard this little guy here, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing today. But I want to show you, if I go into employee resources as this employee, we do have employee contract right here. Okay? So this is the end result that we're going to work towards. And if I click on this guy, what the employee will see when they log in and they go to accept or reject their contract is they'll see the contract here. This is where they can accept or reject it. They can even write you a note back on it. And then we do have links down below where you can ask 3 questions, okay? We give you up to 3 different questions. So in the iVisions web portal, I'm going to show you how to do all this, along with making the contract from scratch, okay? But here, the employee is able to view their contract by clicking on the view. And if they had multiple contracts, they could click down here and they would see, they could select their contract and accept or reject each contract. But if I click on this view, I gotta scroll down, I forgot the sizing thing that I got going on here today, so I gotta open this guy. They can open and review their contract. And this is what the contract looks like in Visions, okay? And you're gonna have some play in here. So we have the heading information at the top with the employee's name and address. If you desire to have the address for the employee, that's gonna be an option for you. We have, when we get into making the contract, we have this area we call the print before detail. And then down below, I'm gonna scroll down a bit. We have the print after detail. So this is all the legal language that you get from your lawyers to put into the contracts, okay? But then in the center area is where we list the positions, okay? We can list positions and addenda pays or stipends. And then if you want to, you could have leave plan information, salary schedule information, education information or certification information. So we'll show you some of the options. But I've worked with districts where some of them are like, I think it looks better if all the legal information's at the top or if all the legal information's at the bottom. But you're gonna decide all that when you go to create your contract, so there's no right or wrong. So you could either split it up where you have some legal information before or after, or you could put it all at the top and all at the bottom. And then you can reference the position in that legal information. But the beautiful thing is the position information is pulling from their positions, and then the leave information is pulling from Visions with their leave, so it's pulling from the system, okay? Cool. And then at the bottom we have, of course, their signature, so, okay? And I'll show you how to pop that in there, okay? The other thing is if you have the iVisions, so let me scroll up. Exit this. Okay. Within the iVisions is where I said they can accept or reject, but also you can ask 3 key questions to your employees, like we just made this up as 3 questions, you know, select the number of checks you'd like to receive from the drop down. If you're a district that allows for summer pays and, you know, or not, here they can choose, and we have like 19 or 26. So you can customize these options. And then here I've read this agreement and saved a copy of it for my records, and they can select yes or no. And you can require these fields so they can't get out of this, or, you know, it won't send you that they've accepted the contract until they answer these questions. And then by clicking the submit button, I agree to or rejecting the terms and conditions of this agreement. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to get all of these different options. So we're good here? Okay. The other thing is with iVisions, you can have the contracts available to the employee as a document. Okay, so if I click down here in employee resources, and I just popped it down here under employee documents, oops, get that again. So here, they can go ahead and view their contracts out here. You could even have previous years of information, so. And so it's just a matter of them. So after they accept the contract, I've heard of payroll or HR offices complaining because people lose their paper contract. You gotta print out a new paper contract for them and you wanna charge them $5 for bothering you. Yeah, but here, at least in the iVision's web portal, you can publish it out there and it can be available. Okay, and so, again, here's the contract that I just showed you. So, I just wanted to make note that when we go through the setup, that's gonna be an option, okay?
And that's not the content manager, that's actual just employee documents.
Yeah.
You can publish them
Yeah.
out there, like benefits enrollment, you can publish out there. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
And
Okay.
does the signature display after I selected accept, or is it automatically?
The signature is gonna be an electronic signature, saying that you've accepted it, and we
Okay.
have to put in the last 4 of your social, and so that's what the electronic signature is. So there isn't gonna be an employee's physical signature on the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
That signature was the superintendent's
Oh, that I'm seeing.
Yeah,
On the
whatever.
contract, for example, if you roll over
Yeah, or
March,
the board members.
right, to the new year, then we issue contract at the new hire after March. So the contract document will reside in the fiscal 15-16 instead of 16-17. So when we actually go to 16-17, that document will not show anymore. If there are a way they can pull the contract to the new year, because the contract is created in the old, not in the new, so when you
Yeah.
go, it's not
You
carried
could
over.
copy it and you could pull it in manually through
How to put it manually?
in payroll or HR, employee documents. So you could go into, you could save that off as a PDF, and I'm gonna go into payroll, I could have gone into HR.
What was the question?
She said if you roll your fiscal year, the document's not gonna show in the new year.
Yeah.
If you hire somebody after you've rolled, so, yeah. So in here, in employee documents, where is it? Right here. Yeah, you can save it off as a PDF at that point and then just add it in here.
You can
Manually.
save it to the,
Yeah.
import it to the new year,
No, manually add it in the new year.
manually add to the new year.
Uh-huh. By adding a record right here in employee documents. Yeah, picking your person, I'm just gonna pick this person.
Save it from old years of PDF and import it. into
Okay,
document.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you have manually do this process.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if you've already rolled.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to do that for each person.
Well,
Okay,
it's just like a double-
This is only, yeah, after you roll. Yeah.
And then if you have some, like if you roll before the new teachers come on.
Right.
You would have to do that for
Yeah,
each teacher.
or just, if you wanted it available to them, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We're just waiting out of the new year and do it in the new year?
Yeah, yeah.
Our HR department actually
Do
issues,
the contracts
they
in the
roll
new year.
over in
Yeah.
February or March, and
Exactly.
then you have to work in two systems and it's awful.
Too early.
It's too early.
Yeah,
It is.
and you gotta weigh the pros and cons of when you wanna roll. Cause you guys rolled in February a few times, right?
The first time we've, we're all the way up to March now.
Okay.
Back to March.
Still.
But you still do contracts in the new year, old year? Old year.
But after roll, there are some new hires, but not in the
Yeah.
new year anymore, so you won't see it.
Now, does the hiring slow down from March to? No, for your
No,
district.
let's slow down.
Yeah.
There should be a document roll,
Yeah.
like a document, I mean,
Yeah.
you have the option to roll,
Kind of like for W-2, there should be a
Yeah,
page
it's to
form.
be
yeah,
popular.
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
evaluations, you can do leave balances, you can do,
So why not contracts?
yeah, or documents, just documents in general, because your contracts will be tied to that fiscal year, but an employee document, as far as I'm concerned, that's sort of like a base year type of thing that should cross years. Your employee document in this year is gonna be the same as it is every year from then on out.
Okay,
Can we do an enhancement request? Mike?
We can. I will type that in right now. You guys carry on.
I was gonna say, well, is Carrie back there
Okay.
taking notes?
Everybody vote for it.
Five-star,
Carrie
thumbs up,
done
everybody.
this?
I am. Everyone needs to participate.
That's what we're all about here, right? 5 stars
Making
and
it
lots
better.
of likes. That's a good question.
All the lights.
Do you notice what I'm using?
Yes. Jealous.
Yeah, we talked about that before class.
Sometimes it's confuse the users because they should not have so many icons on the top. They should have limited because their
Got more
previous
now.
is different.
Do you miss tabs or
The ribbon?
menu bar?
Menu bar, yeah, because payroll HR, they should not have some of the function, they probably confuse, click.
But yeah,
There's
it's,
less up
I'm
there than the
getting
old
used to
one.
it
The old one has a
myself,
whole,
so.
you know,
yeah, all the little
know that.
Yeah.
Shrink the columns, expand, hide the columns.
So I don't show them.
All these little buttons.
We need to have like a third option, like a hybrid of the two.
Okay, the other benefit that we have of using the contracts out on iVisions is, right now, if you're handing out paper contracts, you gotta wait for them to come back, and they probably come back coffee stained or jelly donuts. The jelly from the donuts on them, and you have to fish through with the list and check off whose contract you got, and dog the person that hasn't sent the contract, or back in, so you have all that. Where through the iVisions web portal, as they accept the contract, then it's gonna go ahead and update this area. So this is where you can keep track of who's accepted and who hasn't filled out their contracts. And Carrie was mentioning earlier that you can send emails from this area. And so, I'm just gonna go in here real
What would it
fast.
look like with the list of who all the individuals for the
Yeah.
individuals that, oh, so you have.
So
the
it's
list
right here, just your
Okay.
typical Visions grid, and you could filter on people or filter on the contract. So I have many contracts, different types of contracts, so I could concentrate on maybe just one. I'll just do this teacher one and hit apply selection. So I can see what's been published, what hasn't been published, and I can see, you know, whether or not they've accepted or rejected the contract. I can also see the comments, and then those user-defined fields that we talked about, the 19 versus the 26 checks, whether or not they've copied off on the contract and if they've accepted. So you can see all that information in here.
Question,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, so that grid, is that pulling in all positions or only positions that have been
This is pulling
issued?
in contracts, so it's not positions.
So it's only those that have been issued a contract?
Not really, because here I have generated contracts, but I have all of these that are unpublished. Okay, so I'm seeing, when we get into the contract generation, I'm seeing the contracts that have been generated.
Okay.
But you can see I haven't published some. So
So-
this is also, you know, if you didn't publish a contract, you can see that here. Okay? But I'll be able to see if they've accepted or rejected the contract
So
from
that
this
gives you
area.
the option of if you're not renewing someone's contract, then you don't have that published.
Yeah, well, you probably wouldn't even, we'll talk about that later on, because in the steps, if you weren't gonna, issue somebody a contract, you probably would not link the, position to the contract, and I'll show you that a little bit. So you wouldn't even get this far with a
Okay.
person, is what I'm gonna say, and we'll talk
So
about that.
you could potentially forget or not attach somebody to a contract?
Potentially forget. I'll show you. the
Well,
grid.
because
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, unless they're in a group, if they didn't get put in a group,
We'll
that's
talk-
what I'm saying, if the positions don't go in there and only contracts,
I think this is further down the road where you would start maintaining and using this. I think you would catch those that didn't have a contract before this, but I
Okay.
just wanted to show this, because I'd shown you the contract.
Okay.
And the accept and reject, so I just wanted to touch on this guy. But we'll be revisiting this, and so we'll maybe get back to your question later, okay? Okay. But this is the area where you can maintain the master list of who's accepted and who's rejected the contract, and it's done online. And as soon as they accept it, it's updating this area where, you know, they could sign the contract and it could get lost, especially if they drop it off on the wrong person's desk or whatever. So this is at least managing the document, I think, a little bit easier, so.
The suggestion for employee documents is on the Tyler community. When you get back to your office, I assume immediately after this meeting today, right? Everyone's going back to the office. Put in that last hour of work before your 3-day weekend. Make sure to go on, give it all the likes, all the love. And if anyone's watching this at home on the later recorded webinar, just like to point out that it is December 12th and the AC just kicked on.
Yay!
Yeah, amazing.
I know.
Sucker.
He didn't hear me, but it's actually February 12th, not December.
Yeah.
Close enough. I'm trying to forget Valentine's Day is coming up.
Global warming, right? Global warming. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so, thanks for that commercial.
And thanks for posting that, Mike.
Yes,
Yeah, that's-
he's all over it. And then Joe's gonna come back to me and say, payroll, what were you thinking, Val? And I'll have to be like, okay. Maybe not, so, okay. So I went into human resources, and I'm on page 127 right now. And I went into human resources, and I opened up the contract folder. So we have 4 programs here. I touched on the contract status, okay? But we have contract addenda, contract maintenance, and employee contract. Okay? Way back, when I was in implementation, okay? When I'd come out, and I'd be with the business manager, I would tell them, let's block contract addenda from your HR department, even seeing it. Okay? This is a manual process. Okay? If you go into this program, you can manually add a position in there, but it's not part of the payroll. Okay? It's not pulling down from the payroll. Okay? But if somebody's like, I need my contract and I need it now, this would be a quick way to get it out. The problem, though, is it comes in with as an addenda contract. It doesn't go through position control, so that's one strike against it. The other strike against this is if you create and replace all your contracts, it's going to wipe out anything that you did manually. Okay? So when I was in implementation, I used to say, let's block this program from your HR department even seeing it. So I know I worked with a few of the districts. If you go out there and you don't see this program, it's probably because I left my thumbprint there. Okay, yeah, it's just a manual process, but some districts may still use this. At one point, I talked to the developers about removing it, and they were toying with removing it from the product, but they're like, somebody may need this, they may still be using this, so we're leaving it out there. So I'd rather just mention that now, so that you know. But this is a manual. You go in here and you manually add the information. I'm just going to show you this real fast. And you know, here you can see we have bilingual, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So, okay. But if you create and replace the contracts, you'll lose the information that was in there. Okay. But we have contract maintenance and then employee contracts. So contract maintenance, you should pretty much only have to touch that maybe like once a year when you're starting to build the contracts for the new year. And when I say contracts, you might call them these at-will agreements that you give your hourly people each year. So you can set that up in the contracts. You may have your bus drivers where they have to sign a piece of paper each year saying that they're gonna make $12 an hour. That can